Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ethan Fisher here. We're doing our second episode with UnDrafted, and we're here with one of the most inspirational and motivating people that I've met in my journey across this country speaking to student athletes. His name is Sheldon Greywater, and he's from North Dakota, of all places. But we met a couple years ago, and ever since our first meeting and talking to each other, I felt this kindred, friendship. And I really enjoy being able to talk to you, Sheldon. And our friendship is growing, and I think it's growing even more now too with your Bills doing really well. So
Yeah, finally.
So, but if you would, Sheldon, kind of give me an idea and all the listeners and audience, who you are, like where did you grow up? What was your family upbringing, and how close were you to your family? Because I know that was such a big thing for you.
Sure. Like I said, I'm from North Dakota. Right now it's freezing. So actually it's above freezing. So we're decent anyway. I'm from the reservation of Spirit Lake, North Dakota, which is approximately about 5,000 people or so that are members of that tribe and whatnot. I just live off the reservation in a little town called Devil's Lake. I met you through there and all that stuff. I was born and raised on the reservation. Played sports, at the local high school and all that stuff. So I was a four-sport athlete. I played football, basketball. I threw shot put and discus and track. Okay. And I was also a baseball player. So summers were pretty busy, and all year round was pretty busy. So I kept my mom on her toes all the time and all that stuff. And I was raised in a single mother, of course. My mom was a single mom of 4 boys, and she basically adopted. I say basically because she really didn't even adopt them. These kids were kind of on the street or whatever, and she just took them and said, I'm going to raise these kids.
Really?
So yeah, so she basically did that. High school, like I said, I played football, and I played football in a school that is mostly dominated by basketball. And being that, I had to go out and find different means of being able to play on a high school football team. So through a co-op agreement, I was able to play for the Devil's Lake High School. I played for them. I was primarily defense, so I was mostly a nose guard and whatnot. Was recruited pretty good in the state of North Dakota, and then ended up settling on a small college in Jamestown, North Dakota, because I was pretty much in love with the coach that got me down there, because he talked a good game. He definitely knew his stuff. Got me down there, and lo and behold, they switched me to offense because I was such a big dude. I stand for about 6'7". At the time, I was about 300 pounds, so they put about another 40 pounds on me when I got to college. Did my playing days all 4 years at Jamestown College, small NAIA school. I always had dreams of playing NFL football, and had a coach that said I could get basically I could put you in the right direction, and the rest is all on you. So did that, played, ended up getting a shot at trying out. Went down to Chicago, did a combine with them. Apparently they weren't looking for me, so I ended up getting a contract with a arena football league. So I played a year of arena football. And that's a whole different bird, man. Playing in that game, because it's pretty fast, and it's pretty speedy, and instead of looking in the crowd and seeing just a blur, now you could actually see people, guys having beers, kids having snacks and all that stuff, and you're close enough to smell it. So that's kind of crazy to play in that league. But other than that, I ended up going into my career of teaching. So I taught for a couple of years. Took a hiatus from sports and all that stuff, but I kind of kept with it through coaching and refereeing. I was actually refereeing basketball, so I kind of stayed active that way. Coached football and track, helped out with basketball through kind of coaching and whatnot here and there when I could help with a team and whatnot in my old high school. Yeah. Took a hiatus from everything and moved to Minneapolis and decided to see what the big city has to offer. Didn't have a plan, moved down there, was homeless, basically homeless, living on couches, lived in my car, had to make decisions on whether I'm going to eat today or I'm going to put gas in my car. So finally, I think I did pretty well down there. I ended up, finding bouncer gigs here and there, and then I ended up working for American Family Insurance, of all things, climbing roofs and doing some adjusting and whatnot, and ended up staying there for about 8 years, and then Mom fell a little bit ill, which was my time to come home. So I came home, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah.
So,
a big part of everybody that I'm trying to interview is their stories. We'll get more into depth of all these things that you've overcome, but
right.
Can you give me an idea of how much football meant to you and how that kind of helped you get through some of the family issues or any of the issues
Sure.
of being a single kid or a
Yep.
single mother?
Yep. Like I said, I was pretty much the only kid from my school that played football. I was the only kid that went to the school and the two Devils Lake and played football. I was good at it. So, it's finally something that you're good at. And when you're younger, see, I was born. My mom actually would say this too, is my I have three brothers. One's a half brother, but he's my full brother. I count him as that. We were all the direct result of an affair she had with a married man. And so being a young man in that position, the first thing you learn is shame. First thing you learn is to be ashamed of things, that the reason you exist is because of a bad thing that your parents did. So I kind of held a little grudge against my mom when I was younger, a little bit, and also with that, being a big dude, my brothers are all like 5'7", 5'8", and all of a sudden I'm born and I'm 12-pound baby and this huge kid with curly hair and kind of reddish brown hair, where my brother's a little darker than I am and whatnot. And all of a sudden they used to tease me and say that I was adopted all the time. So it felt like I was always fighting with things, and I just had a chip on my shoulder. Yeah. And coming from a single parent, Mom definitely, we had to make ends meet. I mean, she did some miracles with some of the pay she got. I remember there's times when you go and look in the fridge and the only thing in there is an empty jar of mayonnaise and some butter. Yeah. And she made meals, though. She made it work every night. Every night we had a hot meal and whatnot. So she provided that work ethic that way for me. I think that seeing her do that, and I wouldn't say she was really shamed or anything like that, but I could tell that she had a little bit of like the reason we were born is because of the affair that she had. But seeing her persevere through all that stuff and just work hard, and she made sure that the deal she made with us as kids is, if I have to go to work and do all this stuff, you guys have to go to school. That is your job. So we did that and whatnot. So
how was your relationship with your mom? You kind of mentioned when you were younger that you kind of were angry at her because you started to realize what happened. But I know after the years of us, building this relationship, you've talked about how close you were, and what was that whole transition to go from, knowing what your mom did and then using her experiences to how close you were towards the end?
I kind of kick myself in the butt every day thinking about how much of a jerk I was when I was in high school and all that stuff, kind of towards my mom, just because I held that grudge and all that stuff. And it wasn't until after college, then I realized, this woman making at the time $26,000 a year, supporting 5 boys and kids that off the street, she was supporting kids off the street that didn't have homes either. And she was making my football games. And she was there every time, and I could always look up to the crowd, and there she was. Every time there was something I thought wasn't too big, she was always there. And it was always good to see my mom. And it was funny because I knew she was going to every game, and with our football team, we get a certain amount of free tickets and whatnot. So I wouldn't know who would come with her because she would just pick up somebody and say, "Let's go, we're going to the football game." And so rather than put a specific name down, I told Coach that you know, the Greywater tribe is coming. I don't exactly know who, but they're coming. So coaches and all, and so, is the tribe coming today? Is the tribe coming today? So it's pretty cool thinking about it and whatnot. But yeah, you know, it didn't click until after. And it was like, dang, my mom made it work, man. She was a beast. She was a warrior, you know. When in a reservation where people are so eager to get rid of their kids, people are so eager to pawn their kids off on grandma and grandpa and auntie and uncle and whatnot, and she made it work, and she made sure that we didn't go without.
Yeah. No, that's the one thing I've enjoyed our conversations over the last couple of years, of how much you love your mom and how much she meant to you. And,
Absolutely. And she was like I said, she was a warrior. I mean, she had her own health issues. She was a diabetic, early onset diabetes and whatnot. And I do remember that she did end up, in order for a better health, she ended up having, you know, this is prehistoric stomach bypass surgery and all that stuff. I mean, basically the scar from belly button to, you know, mid chest, kind of old school, you know, stuff like that. So she did that in order to be around for us and all that stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool too. You know, this woman went through all that pain, because I do remember all the pain she went through, because it didn't look easy. It didn't look easy, and she'd still smile. That was one thing about my mom. She went through all that stuff, and she smiled, because she always said that was the one thing she can control. She can't control life sometimes, but the one thing she can control is her emotions. And so she wouldn't let people break her. She wouldn't let like that. And she always had this old thing, and I kind of jokingly threw it back at her a couple of times, is she'd always say, "You pack your own chute." And I remember that specifically, and I still use that today. Basically, you pack your own emotions. People present you with opportunities to be mad, sad, happy, and the reaction you give them is on you rather than anybody else. So she taught me that, you know, and I still use that, and I use that with my kids that I deal with today. That, you know, life could be crappy for you, life could be hell, but if you could smile through it, you know, things will start looking up.
so that is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted you to be a part of this. Is we haven't got into all the health issues that you've had, but the biggest
Yeah,
thing that I've noticed with you is exactly what you just said. You've gone through hospitals and ERs, and we'll get into that, but every single time something has happened to you, you're always smiling about it. Now I know you have bad days, you've told me that, but
yeah,
you approach it with a smile, and you have that same attitude that your mom did. And that's why I think it's so important for people to know about you and your family and all the stuff that you've overcome, because you look at it as packing your own parachute. Like, you're in control of how you feel each and every day, and you
right.
do amazing things. And that's why it's so inspiring to have somebody like you, because that's the things that you've gone through. I don't know many people that would be able to handle it and smile at the world like you
Yeah, it gets tough sometimes, but like I said, you can control, and in the back of my mind, when things are going on, when things are going terrible, what will my mom say to me? You know, mom was a little lady, 5'4", and about maybe 130 pounds, 140 pounds, but she would whoop my butt. You know, in fact, I used to get teased about that because I was a mama's boy, and I'll always be a mama's boy, even when she's gone. Um, but she definitely was the inspiration behind. She's the one that kept me going through a lot of things. That, I mean, I lost my first brother that I lost, was my second oldest. So I have two older and one younger. I'm kind of in the middle, that are biological. My first brother I lost, he basically, well, he didn't basically, he was a drug addict. He was a diabetic. He was a diabetic. He turned to, he hurt his back. He was actually an athlete. He was a stud athlete. Hurt his back, He got addicted to those opiates. Um, Ended up starting melting those down, basically going into straight line heroin. I remember he literally died 3 times before he finally before the fourth one got him. He died 3 times. He was clinically dead when they brought him into the hospital a couple times, but he pulled through. Even when when he was his last time, he lived for 10 days off of life support, and there was no brain activity. But the doctors were kind of like, I don't know how the heck he's living, but he was still alive, and I think it was just his stubborn attitude because he was a stubborn dude. It was tough losing that guy. He and I didn't see eye to eye most times, but athletic wise, we saw, we were pretty good friends that way and all that stuff.
How much
He
older
was,
was
what's that?
how much older was he?
He was 5 years older than I was. So he would be 50 coming up in a couple of years. So he died when he was 38, I believe. I think that's the math works out anyway. He was he turned to I could say he actually was the opposite of me in thinking of things. He blamed everything on the world. He blamed everything on mom. He blamed everything that, his life sucked because, the world owed him, and all that stuff. And the world don't owe you nothing. The world gives you the air you breathe, and you take and do what you do with it. But he ended up blaming the world, and he self-medicated with a lot of alcohol. And like I said, he was addicted to opiates, and he just overdosed a couple times. Actually went to prison, which was probably the best thing for him. I mean, you hate to say that for somebody, but it dried him out for the year that he was in there. But at that day he came out, he went back to and tried to do the same kind of drugs that he was doing, but his body wasn't used to that. So he ended up dying that time, but he came back. And I remember there'd be times that I'd come home over to my mom's because he lived with my mother. Um, he'd be on the floor, and he'd be thinking, "Dude, is this dude dead?" And that's the craziest feeling, thinking that, oh my God, I just found my brother dead, and thank God at the time he wasn't. I'd have to help him up, and there'd be times that, just think of the worst case scenario with drug addicts, and that's what it was. There'd be glimpses of him when he looked at you and he talked to you. You could see his name was Delvin. You could see the old Delvin. But for the most part, when he looked at you, it was through you. He didn't even see you. And it was nice to see my brother once in a while, but it didn't take very much for him to go outside. He must have stashed out some alcohol or something like that out there.
Yeah.
Because within a matter of 5 minutes, he'd come back and he'd be wasted. So his liver was gone, his body was just gone. And my mom, I don't know how that woman did it, but she handled it like a trooper. Of course you hate to bury your own son, but she was tough. She smiled through it all, knowing that she had that pain in her. I knew that was crazy that mom could smile through and talk to her friends and smile and all that stuff. And I knew that was killing her and all that stuff. And about let's see, when did my brother die? I had another brother that passed away. My youngest brother passed away. He was also an alcoholic. He ended up driving off the road, and unfortunately up in Devil's Lake here, it's flooding pretty good. So the lake is pretty huge and basically just a lake with roads driving through it and all that stuff. So he decided to go visit some friends, and he was, wasted. And he tried to drive, and he ended up driving off the road and rolling his pickup truck into the lake and ended up drowning that way. And that one actually hurt the most. For me, is my baby brother, because he and I were 17 months apart, and we grew up like we were, what do they call that, the Irish twins or kind of thing like that. We always had to wear the same clothes, and I think he just loved that he got to wear the same clothes as his big brother, and I hated it, because all of a sudden we were in the same clothes, and like, man, can I get my own things?
Yeah.
but yeah, it sucks so bad with that. Like him dying was the biggest heartbreak of them all. And then about
Is,
another
is
two
that
or
what
so.
I was
What's
gonna
that?
say? Is that what got you that first time I came up and spoke? Was thinking
Yeah,
of your brother?
thinking about my little brother. He you know he wasn't malicious. He was like some people, how they get that angry drunk and all that stuff. They're just that jerk.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like that. He would smile and laugh. He was that happy-go-lucky guy that when he was his happiest when he had a bottle in his hand and all that stuff. And he liked to joke and he liked to tease and he's another one that you could look into his eyes and when he was sober, you could see him again, but it wasn't very often he was sober.
Yeah.
And then when he was drunk, it was kind of he'd call you up at 5 a.m. just to talk. I think he was coming down off of a drunk or whatever. He's coming down on that and all that stuff. And I think he just needed somebody to talk to. And it was like, I hated those.
Yeah.
I hated him calling me in the morning and all that stuff. And now I wouldn't. I'd give anything to hear that phone call again. It's one of those things that you kick yourself in the butt and think, man, I wish I would have picked up that phone call and pick up that phone again. But
So
yeah, it's crazy. And
your family's been through the ringer when it comes to drugs and alcohol and
yeah,
just overall health. And I'm sure we could keep going about all that. I mean, that's such a sensitive topic with me, obviously, with the drugs and alcohol.
right.
So knowing that foundation of what you've gone through, I want to talk a little bit about some of your health stuff though,
Sure.
because that's the piece that's on you. Like now we get an
Right.
idea of where and how you grew up and you had all these obstacles. And, we've talked about using football as an outlet and an avenue for you to do something because you were good at it and you were
Yeah.
6'7", 300 pounds. So you had an opportunity to do something cool with it. But can you explain some of the health stuff that I've witnessed from afar?
Sure.
That's stuff.
Well, even before all that stuff, the first health thing that I being a big dude, you kind of you actually have some of these concerns and issues. And the first thing I had was high blood pressure, and that was like at 18 years old when I did my sports physical for my college. I ended up being on high blood pressure medications, and I didn't take it serious. It's nothing immediate, so you don't take your pills all the time and all that stuff. So I did that, and like I said, mom being an early onset diabetic, and I find out my dad was he was also an early diabetic in his early 30s. So that was just a nice recipe for me to get it in my early 20s. So I got diabetes when I was like 23 years old. I was in tip-top shape. I was in the best shape of my life. And this is right before my tryout. I went down to Chicago to do. Just got sick. Didn't feel right. When you look back, you kind of see the symptoms. Like, yeah, the light bulb comes on. But I ended up just going totally like comatose almost.
Yeah.
And the girl I was dating at the time was smart enough to call the ambulance, and they got the ambulance there and brought me down. And then all of a sudden, this doctor goes, "How often do you let your diabetes get this bad?" I'm like, "I'm not diabetic." Well, he's like, "You are now." So that was a huge disappointment, and I felt depressed because, I was, like I said, I was working out, I was in shape, I was getting ready for a tryout, for Christ's sakes, and it was like, I saw my mom and all that go through that, and that first thing I thought is, well, no, I'm going to go through this, and now I'm going to have to put on this burden, and I'm going to have to deal with all that. But I find out that it doesn't hurt you immediately, so you don't care as much. You don't really take it as serious. You don't take your blood sugars as often. You kind of let that go for a little bit. And running at a high blood sugar plus high blood pressure, you tend to it tends to affect the body. Not when you're young. It kind of starts to affect your body when you get older. So lo and behold, I start to get this all started, like my most recent stuff started back around about 2013.
Okay.
Started with stomach issues. Started with stomach issues and digestive issues and basically just pain. You know, I had a lot of stomach issue and pain and whatnot. I ended up having gallbladder disease because of that, and they say that's a basically a symptom, or not a symptom, like a what do you want to call it? It happens when you have diabetes for so long. Your gallbladder tends to go and all that stuff. Sorry about that.
No,
My
it's because you didn't. That's because you didn't get treatment for it.
Right now. What's that?
I said the gallbladder stuff. Was that because you didn't get treatment and take care of it right away?
Toughed it out. You know, I toughed it out. I toughed all the symptoms that led up to my gallbladder disease. I didn't eat the healthiest things, and I also was also self-medicating, doing a little alcohol and all that stuff. And that's the biggest thing to watch out for when it comes to diabetes, because it's nothing but sugar, you know. So that caused the gallbladder issues. When I started, actually, this is about the time I started dating my wife, and she got to see it all firsthand. She hung in there through all my worst times in my life. So I mean, that's where I love that woman to death, you know, because she stuck by me by the toughest times. But going back to that stomach stuff, kicked it. I finally got rid of the gallbladder. Thought I was okay for a while. And all of a sudden, it was in a matter of about weeks. It felt like somebody kicked me in the stomach hard. And what had happened was, when the doctors were removing my gallbladder, see, my gallbladder had died and gangrened and had stuck to my liver. So it was black and stuck to my liver, according to that surgeon. Whoa. Rather than this surgeon calling in somebody, you know, basically who's well prepared for it, or more equipped, he decides, well, I'm going to get this myself. I can get this, no problem. So what he's doing is he starts cutting it, like he starts filleting it. And when the process, he didn't put nothing behind my gallbladder, and it was cutting my liver. So he was taking this dead tissue and jamming it right into my liver, and he was cutting it at the time. And so what happened was, I would get sick, so they give me enough antibiotic to subside it for a little bit, and I ended up getting a tumor on my liver. And that doctor that found that tumor said that it looks like somebody just took a finger and stuck, you know, it was about the size of a finger, was stuck inside of your liver. So I know that ended up happening. So I ended up going on a PICC line. I don't know if you know what a PICC line is.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's connected to your heart and whatnot. And so I did that for about 10 weeks, which is not fun, because you got to wrap yourself every time you take a shower. Went through all that, got through all that, thought it was good and safe and clear and all that stuff, and back to reffing, almost back to normal, back to biking. And I started feeling like crap again. What I felt like I was out of shape. I started feeling like I was out of shape, and then one weekend while I was reffing, while I was feeling out of shape, my foot swelled up. My right foot swelled up. I ended up just treating it like a sports injury, wrapped it up tight, decided to elevate it and all that stuff, so I didn't have to ref for another week. So it all went away. In the meantime, I'm feeling like I'm more and more out of shape. I ended up reffing that following, 2 weeks after that, and it just ballooned up. I mean, it looked fake, how huge my foot blew up. And it blew up all the way to the knee, and it got red and blotchy. So it was like, this is not good. So I went to the ER, and so ER is like, well, you're pretty infected in there. So they ended up sending me off to a bigger facility, which is Grand Forks. Sent me to that place, and they diagnosed me with cellulitis, which was the wrong diagnosis at the time. And what was happening was my arch was collapsing. My arch was collapsing because I'm arthritic, you know, and whatnot. And I got a little bit of, because of the diabetes, I ended up getting a little bit of neuropathy. It's because I can't feel the bottom of my feet. You know, you can't feel the bottom of the feet just because of nerve damage and whatnot. So I couldn't feel that going on when I'm running and all that stuff. but it's like that horse, you know, he keeps running, and that you don't know you're hurt, or you just run through it no matter what. Ended up they ended up misdiagnosing it, so I have my arch collapsed and my foot looked fake. I mean, if I had pictures to show you, I deleted all those because those were so ugly. But in the meantime, I just got worse. I got worse from it. I was sleeping all day, couldn't move, couldn't do anything, and I was so winded. I would walk maybe 20 feet and I'd have to sit down because I was just winded. And I go to the ER for that, and they send me off to Grand Forks. They check for heart attacks. No heart attacks and whatnot happened. They run all these tests and whatnot, and couldn't determine what was going on. And they diagnosed me. Well, actually, the best they could diagnose me with is they're like, well, we know you don't have pneumonia, but we're going to give you antibiotics like you had pneumonia. So I do that, and then they end up. I'm like, that's the answer you got. That's the best you can do, and is give me a diagnosis of maybe you have pneumonia. And so my wife and my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law is pretty. If you know those two, they're the perfect redheads who, you know, are pretty blunt and straightforward. But you know, if you're in their circle, they love you to death. So they end up getting calling the Mayo Clinic down in Rochester, and they were able to get me in. So I go down there. The Mayo diagnoses me. Well, there was quite a few things they diagnosed me with. The first thing they diagnosed me with is asthma. They said, you have asthma. You do all the breathing tests and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the last thing they diagnosed, the next thing they diagnosed me with is called Charcots Foot. It's basically the collapse of the bones inside of the foot. So you have that, you know how you have that, your foot's here. So you have the arch. Mine fell, and the bone here kind of basically collapsed in on itself like that. So it was sitting like that. And it sat like that for well over a couple of years like that. And so, because, you know, the heart thing is, because the foot thing had to sit on the back burner for the heart thing.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I wasn't getting any treatment for that. And so it got worse, progressively worse at the time. And so the Mayo diagnoses me with heart disease. I ended up having heart disease, and I had 3 blocks they could see. They had the 3 main arteries were blocked. And so they ended up going through open heart surgery. And I tell you what, stepping back to that original test, because they print you out an itinerary at the Mayo, and you got to follow that thing. And so I went to go do these tests, and the first thing they did was print me a new itinerary. And I look at the last page, and it says open heart consult. Nothing gets more real than that.
Wow.
Nothing gets more real than finding out you're going to have open heart surgery. It's like, you know, first thing I thought is I'm going to die, you know. And in the process, they ended up saying that I had asthma because of the heart stuff. So they're like, that will go away. So that was one thing, like, okay, good. So when they opened me up, they find out that I had another one blocked. So I ended up having a quadruple bypass surgery at 40 years old.
Wow.
Ended up having quadruple bypass. They ended up doing a little bit exploratory checking, and they also diagnosed me with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is basically thickening the muscles on the wall. Of all muscles you want thick, is the heart's not one of them.
Yeah.
But they ended up diagnosing me with that. So that causes a little bit of infarction, they call it. It basically swooshing sounds in my heart rather than a typical beat.
Yeah.
I have a swoosh sound going on. Had that done. And then the foot. After all that's said and done, finally, let's go ahead and tackle the foot. Let's see what they could do with that thing. So the Charcot foot, and I was like, well, most people your age really don't get Charcot foot. It's mostly elderly people who get that and whatnot. So it's like, they don't have anything really that you could benefit from this. I know the one surgeon that offered the surgery for me is like, well, what they're going to do is basically just fuse all the bones in your foot, and the only thing you'll have is your toes. And I think that's kind of what, about the time I met you and all that stuff. And I was in that big boot and whatnot. And that's the only thing they offered. And then the surgery they offered was like, and that's basically for elderly people to transfer from a wheelchair to a bed. And they're like, obviously you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You're gonna end up breaking that. You're gonna end up doing this. And we try to figure out, we're going to try to put some strong stuff in there. I'm like, why don't I just cut it off? And then the doctor looks at me like I'm serious. And he laughs. I'm like, no, I'm serious. Why don't you just cut it off? If you say it's useless, I can't use it anymore, why not get rid of it? I see plenty of people that are amputees and have a full life and all that stuff. And fortunately for me, the guy that makes my, unfortunate for him, but fortunate for me, the guy that makes my boots and all that stuff, he was an amputee. I didn't know it.
Oh, wow.
And he showed me. He was like, he goes, he lost this because of a farm accident or something like that, or a work accident. But he's like, you could live fine. You'll be fine without it and all that stuff. And that's kind of got my mind thinking like, heck yeah, I could do this. I mean, I've played football, I played sports. I think I could get through this and all that stuff. So I started treating it like an athlete would, started approaching things to be prepared. The first doctor that I was talking to wouldn't do the surgery. He wouldn't do the removal. He didn't like that option and all that stuff. So I'm like, well, get rid of that guy. So I went down to a surgeon down in Bismarck, North Dakota. And he was an awesome doctor down there. And he pretty much laid it straight on to me that I could do this. Yep, I could do this. And I did my own research on it. And that's my thing, is I like to do research because I don't like to go on things unprepared.
Yeah.
I did my research, and I did, it's called a Erdl technique, or Erdl method.
Uh-huh.
And basically what they do is they take the two tibia and fibia, and they bridge them together, and it goes from a base of about that big to about that big. Okay. So now I have a pretty good base to do on. So he did that. He knew how to do that. So he did that for me, which was nice. I had the surgery done on June 12th of last year. And you know what? Before the surgery happened, I was honest to God thinking about going on medical marijuana just because of the pain my whole body was going through. Yeah. And once they removed that foot, I don't have any pain anymore.
Really?
It was my whole body was feeling good. It was instant relief. I thought it was the drugs and whatnot that I was on, because I was on some pretty good ones. Yeah. No pains. I felt good. And I was even up for joking right away. I mean, even right after the surgery, I think it was too soon for some of my friends, because I sent out a Snapchat of my stump, and what I did was I drew a picture of a foot. So there was like, some of my friends were like, too soon, and I'm like, too soon. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm the guy that went through this. Yeah. But I kind of got through that, and funny story, but she would kill me right now. But my wife, bless her heart, I love her to death, but she sometimes just cracks me up. I get out of the surgery about 2 days later. I can't believe she said this, but I was getting on the scale, because they weigh you before and they weigh you after. And she goes, of all things, she looks at me, she goes, "Oh, you lost some weight, nice." Well, I kind of looked at her like, yeah, about 20 pounds worth. Yeah, she'd kill me if she finds out. I'm sure she's gonna find out, but love you, honey. Anyways, but yeah, I learned to joke about it right away, because it was something, like I said, I could deal with. I could deal with my own emotions. I prepared for this. I knew it was going to happen. I read up on it. I watched videos on it. I mean, I think I went through so much data on her phone that just looking up all this research on it and kind of getting my own things going. I did that to the point where they didn't even have to do any rehab with me, because I was doing my own rehab already. Yeah. And I was already getting up and going to the bathroom before any of the physical therapists were coming in. So I was already doing all that stuff, and I got yelled at a couple times and they threatened me with a alarm in my bed. So I had to stay in my bed and all that stuff. So it was kind of one of those things. And oh man, it was crazy how that all happened, and I felt good finally. Because like I said before, heart thing, I felt like just garbage. you smile through all that stuff, but it sucks. I mean, the worst thing about that heart thing um, was not only going through like the feeling of tired all the time, but I thought I was gonna die. There's no worse feeling than thinking you're gonna die. There were nights I would actually literally stay up late, stay up all night because I think I'm gonna die. I don't think I'm gonna make it through this night. And there was nights that I was saying goodbye to my wife, and she didn't know it. She was sleeping, but I'll get up and watch her, and that tugs on you a lot right there, because I was like, man, I don't want to leave her already a widow. You know, that's the last thing I want to do. And I love her to death, and I'm gonna do this for us, not only her but for us, for me. You know, because we were talking one time, you and I, we asked about what gets you through all the dark times and all that stuff. And when I sat down and finally thought about it, it actually took me a couple months to think about it. What gets me through it is, it's not just her, it's just the love that she has for me, is knowing that I can be loved like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that would be unfair to her. I know damn well my mom would be kicking my ass and saying, get your butt up and you know, what are you doing crying around? Get up and get things done. You know, I didn't teach you this. I didn't teach you how to be that way. So, I mean, that's what I had in my mind every time I wanted to quit. I mean, there were times, you know, you fell down the stairs and you're like, oh man, you just lay down there because you're hopping and you think you could do all this stuff. And stubborn old me thinks I could do anything and everything. And I'm not young anymore. Fall down the stairs and well, only thing you do is dust yourself up and get back up, you know. I ended up falling. I could, honest to God, I counted them, and it was 10 times I fell down our stairs before I finally smart enough to start listening to them and all that stuff. So it's 10 times I fell down our stairs. Thank God they're only like 5 steps, but still, you know, 6'7", 320-ish pounds falling down. Yeah, I don't fall gracefully at all.
Neighbors think there was an earthquake?
I think the whole neighborhood thought there was an earthquake. My dog was the funniest though. My dog, he's a rescue, and he's kind of I call him my res dog, because that's exactly where I got him from. Because being from the reservation, I picked him up as a rescue. He wouldn't come to me for the first couple of days because I looked different. You know, I didn't have a foot, and all of a sudden he warmed it to me. And then my first fall, in fact, he came over and started licking my face.
Really?
Like, dude, wrong time. You know. But oh yeah, it's all, for me, it was all about attitude. You know, attitude about this whole thing, because I'm not going into this, not, you know, I wasn't going into this naked or blind. I wanted to know everything about this, and I wanted to do everything I could to make it successful and all that. I did my own. At this point, I mean, my prosthetist and everybody that works with me for making my leg and all this stuff, they always talk about how fast I've done over they've ever met. I'm able to stand literally on the stump, and they said they've never met anybody that could do that. And I could stand on that because I practiced and desensitized that, and basically built up the muscle around there, and built up my tolerance. And so I could do a lot of things with that thing.
Yeah.
And my goal this year, after I got my foot amputated, is I'm going to walk into the school this year and nobody even notices. I mean, I got my foot a week before school, and I tell you what, it was trial and error with that thing, because it hurt it hurt a couple times getting that thing on. It's like, ooh,
Yeah.
They talk about a burn, and that's definitely a burn when you first put that thing on, and you got to desensitize some more. So I did that and walked.
Yeah.
And finally was able to walk into the school without a cane, without crutches, nothing. Finally was like, goal achieved. And in fact, I even had a couple kids like, hey, you got rid of your boot. It's like, yeah, I got rid of the foot too.
Wow.
Yeah. So
did you end up telling them you got rid of the foot, or did they?
Yeah, after a while, I kind of prepared them a little bit for it, and then one day I wore shorts on a casual day, and you should have seen the eyes, like, wow. It's like, we forget that you had that happen. We heard about it, but we forgot, you know. But oh yeah, it's definitely been a journey, and I plan on, you know, being that one-legged man in the butt kicking contest, so.
So everything that you just said in the last couple minutes is like, if everybody could have your mentality of how to approach life, like how amazing would we all be?
Right.
You, Sheldon, I like every time I talk to you and the more that we start to know each other and stuff like this, like every time I'm more and more impressed with how you handle this, because
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you,
I
sir.
don't know how I would handle it going through your situation, because I'm moody, I'm grumpy, and I have a pessimistic outlook on life a lot of times,
Sure.
but I've overcome a lot, but it's
Yeah.
a different type of thing, so you do it day in and day out. And I have little breaks where I can get away and nobody sees me and I'm in a bad mood. So I kind of just disappear, where
Yeah.
you have to do this every single day. And that's the piece that, I wish I had from you, because that's something that's just amazing. And
I appreciate that. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. I know my wife was there through it all, and she saw a lot of the things I went through, the ups and downs. Most people don't see the downs. It wasn't really a down, but it was. I remember the one time when I first got my prosthetic, and I was able to walk on it before they took it. They basically gave it to me and yanked it away from me again because they had to actually work on it. I broke down. I broke down finally, and it's like, you know what? People are going to finally look at me as being normal again. People are going to look at me as because right now I'm not 6'7". I'm in a wheelchair or I'm on a roller. I'm not that tall right now. And growing up being tall like that, and you get used to things, And but yeah, I broke down hard, and finally just told my wife was like, "You okay? Are you hurt?" I'm like, "No, no." So you don't know how hard it was, honey. I said, I did all this work to prepare, but still, it doesn't prepare you for the actual amputation. It hurt. It hurt a lot. It still hurts. It still hurts. I right now I'm uneven on my hips, and I don't let people see that. I don't want to show people that and all that stuff. But I think it's kind of that competitiveness in me is where it's at. Is I don't want to show that pain and all that stuff. And I tell you what, it still gets me a little emotional thinking about how hard it was and how hard it still is. And man, it's like, but it's getting better, And there's times that I still got to take off my leg at night. I'd love to keep it on all the times. I'd love to just be able to get up and go to the bathroom at night, but it's now it's a process. I got to get up and put my sleeve on and put the layers of socks on and then put my leg on in order to go to the bathroom. It's like something simple as that, becomes a challenge. But to me, it's like I said, you still have that competitiveness. And it's like, well, challenge accepted. You got to get up and do things. Got to get up and dust yourself off no matter what.
That's why I love sports, no matter what it is. Sometimes sports and athletes get a bad rep because they had a silver spoon in their mouth and they get their college paid for. But being an athlete, you learn how to deal with adversity. You learn how to deal with coaches yelling at you. You learn how to deal with, not playing and getting benched or having to learn how to compete to beat somebody out. And,
right.
In the corporate world, you don't have, people aren't going to treat you so nice. So athletes
absolutely
have
not
resiliency that most people don't. And it shows with you big time.
It's kind of one of those things where, kids these days haven't been yelled at and haven't had that adversity of coaches getting after them and all that stuff. And it shows with some of these people, people feel entitled and you ain't owed nothing, man. Nothing's owed to you. You got to go take it. Whatever you get is what you go get, and I'm fortunate enough to have a wife that's in athletics too. And she understands that. She understands the grind and what you got to do and all that stuff to be successful. And honestly, touching a little bit on that Kobe thing, man, I personally felt that like it was personally one of my friends that died, because he was such a big part of our life. Like, he had that mentality, that go get it attitude. No one's going to give it to you, and anybody can appreciate that. Everybody and anybody can appreciate that, especially athletes.
Yep.
Well,
that's
kind of one of those things.
Yeah, I've just been sitting and watching. I was never a really big Kobe fan, but I respected him because he was the hardest working, most intense, like in your face, go get it. I mean, his
Right.
whole, Mamba mentality. So I always respected him. And it hurt me. Like, my dad texted me and it hurt me. So I've been reading articles and blogs and Twitter and
Yeah.
somebody posted the other day, which actually I think it was today, and they said, look at the impact he's had on not just athletes, but you have people who weren't big sports fans who are feeling it.
Yeah.
That just shows the impact he had when you're not just impacting basketball players or football players or professional athletes, but you have CEOs and businesses and leaders. Like, what he's done and what, just his whole mentality of getting it done, and just, I don't know how you can't respect it,
I know, and you hit the nail on the head with that Mamba mentality, man. You got to have that, and you just got to have that in life to succeed and do things,
Yep.
You got to persevere through things. You look at the injuries that dude had, I mean, I remember the t-shirt, there used to be a t-shirt out there that had all the specific injuries he had. And man, that dude played through a lot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the biggest one was that torn Achilles, going there, knock 2 free throws down, and walk right off.
Yep.
It's like, dude. I mean, you got guys being carted off in a wheelchair,
yep,
and carried off the court.
yep,
That dude's like, nope, I'm shooting free throws and I'm walking off.
yep. That's
if I ever go out, that's the way I want to go out. I want to go out like he did, and all that stuff, and have that mentality.
And that's the cool thing is you do.
I appreciate that.
You just, no matter what's in front of you, you've hit it with this persistence and head on, and embraced it as a challenge. And that comes from your mom raising you. It comes from football and sports, and now you have a support system too with your wife. And
Right.
I know her, and I've had a lot of talks.
She's been a rock, man. I don't think she gives herself enough credit for, being who she is. I mean, to be honest, I sometimes when I'm feeling down, she comes on and picks me up.
Yep.
She has that positive attitude, and kicks me in the butt when I need it. Stop me whining and stop me crying about things. Which kind of reminds me a little of my mom, kind of thing. But that's a good quality to have. She never was the type to go wait hand and foot on me.
Yeah.
It's like, you do it. So I'd have to do it. I mean, when I didn't have my foot, before I had my foot, I was fully functioning without it. I was using a knee roller and crutches and all that stuff, and I also had like it's called an armless crutch, and it's basically looks like a pirate's leg. I think I sent you a picture of that.
Yeah.
But I walked around on that, and I cooked myself meals, did everything like that, and oh man, like I said, I was kind of mad at the time, thinking, oh, why is she helping me, man? Because I have one foot at the time, and then now that hindsight, I think I could do it. She didn't want nobody to have to do it for me. She's not going to be there for me for the rest of my life. She's not going to be everywhere and anywhere, that I'm at. I have to learn how to do that myself. So yeah, you learn to appreciate stuff like that.
She's awesome. And I don't know if you saw it, but I had to rock.
I do see it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think she's gonna appreciate that. We'll have to get you some new gear, some new swag.
I know I sent her a text today saying congrats. She got a new job. So
yeah, I'm pretty pumped about that. Valley City State University.
Yep. So she's moving up. She did a good job the last couple of years, and I'm
Yeah,
happy for her, and I know you are too.
absolutely. And I wish she would see that she gets down on herself because she's not willing to settle for just normal or just settle on things. She's so competitive and all that stuff. She doesn't settle, so she doesn't stop to appreciate things. She doesn't stop to see that. And I told her, all these kids, all these students that you had, I mean, even the ones that aren't playing volleyball, are successful because of you. No one else. You believed in a lot of these guys. You recruited a lot of these kids. You took some of these kids that were, uncoachable, and you made a team out of them. And now these girls, I said, think about your athletic days. That these girls are going to have that for the rest of their lives. Now they're going to have a sisterhood, for the rest of their life. No matter what happens in life, you could always have that sisterhood. I had that with my football boys. In fact, I was talking to one of my guys today that you always have that. Even though it's 25 years ago. It's crazy that you could still talk to each other and not skip a beat.
Not a beat.
Nope,
A
not
beat.
at all.
It's a really unique thing, and it's not just about the actual sport.
Excuse me.
It's the camaraderie. It's all my teammates, just like you. Like if I don't talk to them for a couple of years, and all of a sudden we want to go have lunch, we're back talking mess and
Oh yeah,
remember this. You remember
talking that trash. Yeah. Oh yeah. I got some of my boys talking that trash. I mean, the best part about that humor too is those boys my dudes understand my humor, that they're able to joke about things, and we come up with a lot of puns now. Like, being called to hop along and put your foot in your mouth and stuff like that. Oh, it's funny.
that's good.
These guys are crazy.
But that's
You appreciate those guys.
yeah. That when you can normalize something that's as tragic that's happened to you, and embrace it in the sense of being able to joke about it. I know if you look at it from a psychological standpoint, it's kind of like a defense mechanism, but
Right.
like if you can do that, it makes your life so much easier. It makes your life where people aren't uncomfortable around you. Like,
Yeah.
and that's your attitude. And a lot of
It
people
helps break
have,
the ice on a lot of things too,
yeah.
because some people just don't know what to say,
I mean, you and I would text and Twitter and all that stuff. But when I first saw you, I was like, I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
But I knew that it was okay because we talked about it. But on the internet or email or text, and then doing it face to face is a whole lot different. So
It is.
I was a little hesitant at first because I didn't know what to say, and then it's like, oh man, we've been talking about it. It's not that big of a deal. But it caused me some pause in the beginning because I was like, man, I haven't seen this guy in like 2 years, and now he doesn't have, so it was different. But
Yep.
I knew just from everything that we've talked about and stuff that you were handling it in the utmost best possible way you could. So it was my own block I had to get through because you'd already, I'm done
It's
with it.
kind of like those guys that it was too soon for them, so with the jokes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law too was like, it was too soon for her. Some of the things, some of my friends couldn't look at me. Like one of my football teammates was like, "No, I don't want that to happen to you." I'm like, "It's too late now. It's done. It's done, man."
That's it's just, it's life. You just
Yeah.
never know. And again, circling back with you, and then nobody knew the helicopter crash was going to happen. You watch
No.
an interview with Shaq, and Shaq's like, I wish I could say this to him. I wish I could say that to him. And
Yeah.
you've seen my speech, and that's why I try to tell my brothers and my family I love them any chance that I get, because
Absolutely.
I know that any day somebody could be gone. And
Yep.
I
And unfortunately, I know that I lost every single buddy in my family. It's like it's just one phone call. I'd love one phone call. Just to say, hey, what's up? How's it going, Neil? And just talk to one of my brothers once. They're all gone. I can't do that anymore. I mean, the only thing I got that's really of them, I don't have any videos. I don't have anything like that. But I do have a recording of my mom. She sang me happy birthday one time. So I listen to that every now and then when I miss her.
Yeah.
And I talk to her still. I just still talk to her. I talk to her picture all the time. And, you know, I miss those phone calls on Sundays, giving mom a call because she loved football. That was her and that was my connection with her. And she tried to make me a Vikings fan, but Buffalo was always my team.
Sounds like it.
So,
Well, I want to end on that good note with your mom. You know, just that happy because she's helped you get through all this.
absolutely.
So before we end this, I do want to ask: is there any takeaways that you want people to get from your story, your life? You know, because I look at you and we've talked about this. I want you to be able to tell people your story and inspire, because I think you'd be able to help so many kids and so many youth and so many adults. What would your takeaways be from, you know, what you want people to know from you and what it takes to succeed, even though, you know, some people think success is all about playing professional sports. I look at it as every day that you're alive and you're doing something positive, that's a success.
Right.
And I know you're working with a bunch of kids and you're tutoring and helping, and I've seen you do that. So what do you want people to know?
Biggest thing I want people to know that, you know, through it all, I mean, forgive the pun, but you always got to put one foot in front of the other. You guys got to get up and walk. You know, if you can't walk, crawl. Just keep moving. But the only thing you can do, you know, whether life deals you a crappy hand or not, you know, best thing to do is walk. Keep walking.
Awesome, Big Sheldon. I appreciate you. You're a special human being, and
I definitely appreciate our friendship, my man.
yeah,
And I appreciate you sharing your story with people. And it's like I told you before, it's hard. It's got to be hard to do every time. You got to revisit that every single time. And I love you for that, brother, because not everybody can do that. And I don't. It's tough, and I appreciate you for that.
I'll keep doing it as long as it makes an impact and changing lives. So,
Absolutely.
but now it's like I was telling my wife today, and you know, I think you and I both have the same feelings for our wife. Like they're amazing people, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for her. But I was telling her, you know, a big piece of why I'm trying to do this is I want to help other people inspire, and it's not just me. Everybody's got stories. Um, and so just being able to use what platform I've built and trying to build for people like you who can help change the world and help change lives of students that you get to interact with, and really, I mean, you can help everybody, because what you've been through, getting fired from a job or losing a job to management or something, that's nothing.
No.
That's first world problems, and
You know.
you get caught up in that. And so having something like you as one of those motivating factors, and I've got about 5 of you that I've met through speaking, and they're all going to be on this, that keep my life in perspective. And you're one of those 5. And I think about you guys all the time, because if I'm struggling on a day and I'm dealing with something bad, I'm like, man, what would Big Sheldon do? Like,
I
he's sitting
appreciate that, man.
smiling and laughing and joking about something that is a serious topic, but he handles it with this, you know, maturity and this wisdom, and that's powerful. So I thank you for what you're doing. I want to be able to follow up with you in a couple of years. We're going to talk between there, but I have a feeling you're going to be doing some other stuff and helping more kids and students and athletes, and I'm excited to watch it.
It's the plan. It's definitely the plan.
All right. Well, Big Sheldon, I love you, man.
Love you too, brother.
Inspiration, and I'm so glad I got you on. And I'll let you know when all this gets posted. And shoot me some more information. If anybody's listening to this, go to Big Sheldon's Twitter page. I was going through that today. You have one of the coolest Twitter pages out there because you cover everything. So
I
it's
appreciate
fun to
that.
watch that.
Kind of my way to think. You know, sometimes I think out loud, and Twitter's my usual my way of doing it.
It's I got a couple smiles out of it today. So all right, my man, be safe. We'll talk in a couple days, and I'll let you know when this is up.
Appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks, Sheldon.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Okay, good.